Okay, this is the second installation on the chair drill and how it relates to teaching athletes to move on their horizontal jump landings. I did one a couple years ago, and now I'm going to update it with one using Christian Taylor, the second farthest triple jumper in history. So let's take a look at it first in terms of his movement, and then what we'll do is we'll look at the kids doing the drill on the left. And you're going to see some tremendous similarities on both sides, and the reason why we teach it that way. Now, there are some drills that are done out there, and there's nothing wrong with people, trying to do things to improve the mechanics or the technique. And we're going to try to use what we have, and hopefully this makes some sense to you. And then you can use it to help you with your technical improvement on your athletes. Now, these kids are high school kids. This is a couple years ago, so Josh is, yeah, he was in high school in 2014 when I made this video. And what I do is I put the kids on a chair and I incorporate the arms. And there's a couple people who do a similar drill where they just simply jump off of a bench or push off a bench, and there's nothing wrong with that. And where they simply scoop the heel in and then they pull. There's nothing wrong with that as well. However, one of the things that we have to remember is that the body has a center of mass. And relative to where your arms and legs are, your center of mass has to be accounted for. While you're in space, the body will rotate around the center of mass depending on how the appendages move. In this case here, we're starting off with a high landing position and a chair position, and the body center of mass will tend to rise slightly as a direct result. Um, we also have to keep in mind that the body is constantly rotating forward. So as the person is in the air, what you're going to get is you're going to get the center of mass right about here, and then they'll be rotating forwards this way, which means the feet are going to be moving that direction, and which is okay. That's okay as long as it's controlled. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to take that and maneuver the body so that way it can rotate just enough so the athlete can land and still clear the landing, while keeping in mind that every action contributes an equal and opposite reaction. One of the things that I think that we are forgetting when teaching the horizontal jump landing is a lot of coaches are teaching a high chest upon touching the ground, and I believe that's a mistake. So what happens, and it doesn't matter how strong your abs are, but if your chest stays up, in this case, if it stays up this direction, the feet, remember you're in space, have to go down. Think in terms of what a hurdler does. When a hurdler approaches the hurdle, they push the chest forward as they clear the hurdle, so that way they can bring the thigh up. And as a thigh begins to, or the foot begins to make its movement past the hurdle, what the athlete does is they force the chest up, which of course forces the thigh down. Now, I don't want to get into hurdle mechanics right now because that's a whole different topic for another day. But the basic concept is to rotate around the center of mass while you're in space. So what we want to do in all actuality is actually throw the chest forward, which will help the legs to come up, which is what we want to do. And you'll see the better jumpers in almost every case do that. So once they do that, you got to also now understand that when we throw the chest forward, the center of mass, of course, will move forward. If the center of mass moves forward, the feet have to move backwards. So what the athlete does to counteract that is then they swing the arms down and around like so, as you can see Josh do here in this direction. And they will go behind the body. What that will tend to do is shift the center of mass down into the rear, which means the feet have to then shift forwards and up, which is what we want. And that's relative to the body's path, flight path. The flight path is where the center of mass goes. You got to keep that in mind. It's always about the center of mass. So what we do is we practice with the athletes by having them swing their arms down and back, and they bring the chest forward, and as they touch the ground, what they'll then do is they'll then swing the arms up and around their body. They will not swing the arms down to come forward, because if they do that, they'll tend to hit the dirt, and we don't want to do that. So I tell the athletes to pretend like they're hugging themselves around the chest as they move forward. And from there, of course, as they touch the ground, they're going to then cut the heels and pull the heels back and collapse the knees to the front. That way their body can go into the hole that their feet just made. Now, many times when we'll do this, as you can see, we're doing this on hard pavement, or in this case, a rubber floor. What I'll actually do is I'll put the chair at the edge of a pit. And then the dirt, of course, will be in this area here. And then what the athlete will do is they'll do the same exact movement, and they'll literally scoop themselves off of the chair into the dirt. Or you literally put the chair in the dirt as well if you're concerned about the athlete getting hurt. So that's another way we can practice this. We practice that movement, and then we go on to the track and, of course, jump into the pit and do it dynamically. So let's go back and look at Christian Taylor actually doing the movement in an actual jump, and you'll see where we're talking about. So here he is on the second furthest jump in history. He goes up, hands are nice and high, body's extended, and this is what you're going to see him do. He's going to get into that chair position that we just talked about. Okay? As he comes down, the chest goes forward. You'll see the similarity there. And then he'll then shoot the feet to the front. Almost exactly the same as you see Josh doing here. Of course, Christian's a little bit better athlete, a little more advanced, but he does it actually a little bit better. And then from the arms to the rear as the legs hit the ground. Then the hips, pull forward as the feet hit the ground. The heels cut the ground, and the toes are going to be up. The head will then come up, and the chest will then come up as the body then hugs, or the arms then hug the body. As I'm teaching the athletes to do here, as you can see Christians doing there. And as you can look and see, although it looks like his butt's hitting the ground, if you look very closely, you're going to see those marks that are made by his heels and not his butt. And so we teach the athlete to move in straight, not to the side too much, but straight. And you'll be able to save the landing, and your movement will be done much more efficiently in that way. Of course, you can't mimic that off the chair because the athlete's not moving, but we just set the foundational movements here on this side. You see Lisi's doing the same thing. And then we make it more dynamic by putting the chair in the dirt, and then obviously we then go jump. So now we have speed behind the athlete, and then they'll be able to accomplish the movements much more readily. I hope this helps.